record button before I go blabbing my mouth. All right, so this one is Med Instead of Med Session 3. And it is pretty much swapping your fats. And one of my favorite things to do is snacking on nuts and seeds. Now, at home, other things try to call my name because my roommates like to bring other competing snacks into the arena. But nevertheless, I try to hang in there. So let's get ready to enter into swapping your fats and snacking on nuts and seeds. Besides the protein, swapping your protein, what we went over last week, this is probably the second most important next to the fruits and veggies. We all know that's important. Everybody knows that. But these are some of the hardest for people to swap. It's proteins and fats. And a lot of times they do go hand in hand. You'll find that a lot of your animal sources, they're either lean or they're fatty. And then you have to question, okay, is it good fat or is it unsaturated, as we like to say, or is it saturated? Does it contain omega-3s or is it mostly your standard omega-6s? So we're going to dive just a little bit into that today and just showing you, we're going to dive heavy into showing you how to swap your fats and incorporate nuts and seeds. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, here we go. So fruits and vegetables of all kinds of colors, all shapes and sizes. Grains, and you see corn peeking back there in the background, beans and legumes. We went over, these are some big staples of the traditional Mediterranean eating pattern. We have the lean cut of fish there. All right, and then you have a little accent with those lemon wedges or lemon slices rather, and garlic, like a little shallot back there. Then we have the nuts and seeds. Healthy fats, olive oil, herbs and spices, y'all, herbs and spices. Wine to each his own, but it does have antioxidants, does have those properties. Exercise. Community, eating together, sharing the food experience, and then reducing those sugary beverages, which leads to a reduced added sugar intake. All right. Now, I said this to somebody last week, a lot of times it's harder to get folks to come to the classes or to simply listen in because we all think that we know how to eat. That is the fact of the matter. And everybody wants to be a foodie until it comes time to really delve into being what it means to be a foodie. And that includes setting apart. What sets the midway apart? As we can say, what separates the JV from the varsity? Believe it or not, if we're talking about the midway being the varsity, all somebody have to do to move up to varsity, they just have to keep doing the basics well. So simple. If they do it so well, it's delicious and it's satisfying. All right. So we already went over change your protein last week, and now we're on swap your fats. And as you can see, eat more vegetables and fruit will come next. And then let me go back, jump the gun, and then you see 5 snacking on nuts and seeds that will be incorporated with today. So swapping your fats. As you can see, there are multiple oils or unsaturated fats that you can use, with the basic one being olive oil, and specifically extra virgin. That's good for those dressings and drizzles and things like that. And then you have standard olive oil, which can be good for sauteing and stuff like that. It's fat-free. Do you believe that? It may be, and although it may be, they may have added something else to it. Is fat-free really fat-free? Because we can say today is free, really free for some things. Um, so what they've done is replace the fat in certain items with refined carbohydrates because they have to try to achieve the taste in some type of way. So the fat goes down and refined carbohydrates go up, and they find a way to kind of balance out and replace those calories. Although you could never calorie for calorie replace, or you could if you got so many carbohydrate calories. But fats usually yield 9 calories per gram, while carbohydrates only yield 4 per gram. What we know for sure, this is what we do know. Replacing saturated fat with refined carbohydrates does not decrease the risk. Matter of fact, it may increase your risk for certain things, such as diabetes. Replacing saturated fat with poly or monounsaturated fat has a positive health benefit that has been shown through the research. Consumption of a low-fat diet is not associated with a decreased risk of chronic disease, nor is it associated with lower weight. There is no safe level of trans fat. So let's look at the fat spectrum, right? Over. So the fat choice continuum. As we look at the left, we see the nuts and seeds, the fatty fish, which contain those omega-3s. And then as you go a little bit to the right, monounsaturated, you see your canola oil, your peanut oil, or simply peanuts, avocado, and standard olive oil. And then creeping over to the right a little bit more, you have standard omega-6, and that's pretty much an example of that is your vegetable oil. And then as we go over to the right, then we see eat less. We see saturated fat, trans fat, and I know folks, they're gonna say, well, there's a coconut right there. We have, from a nutritional standpoint, we do have to look at it for what it is. Although coconut may have some properties, and I know it has a lot of properties as far as cosmetics, and it may have its place. However, when you're making a cake, butter might have its place when you're making a bakery item. However, is it to be consumed on a regular basis? Surely not. Surely not. And you see cheese there too. I mean, cheese, we treat cheese, instead of treating it like a compliment or a garnish, we treat it as a main dish. That's what we do a lot of the time, ladies and gentlemen. You see lard and Crisco. I'm pretty sure there are some places back home that still slang that lard. I'm not gonna name any names. And then we have trans fat over far to the right, on the very, very right end of the spectrum, if I were looking at it. I guess if you were looking at it as well. And you see the little label there that displays something that contains trans fat. So where does mayonnaise fit on the continuum? It depends on what type of fat is used to make it. Now, standard mayonnaise, that's probably more so in the omega-6 category. Start to creep it to the right, more middle right there. And it just depends when you start getting into the other types of mayos. Okay. All right, there we go. So oil comparison, y'all get a good look at this. This one is one of my favorites out of the slides. Now, if you go to the website, they may have this in handout form. If they don't, just email me and let me know because it seemed like at the beginning we did have this, and then it was kind of harder for us to get a hold of it and track it down. But this shows you almost like instead of saying pound for pound, fat for fat, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fat breakdown, and then that even breaks down even further into omega-6, omega-3s, and then saturated fat. And it shows you the percentage that each main type of fat that is consumed would have. Now, as you can see, if we're talking about olive oil, 77% monounsaturated fat, so we're good there. It does have some polyunsaturated fat, and it has actually, if we're looking at omega-6 is 8%, and then omega-3 is 1%, and then the rest is the saturated fatty acid, with canola being the least of these when it comes to saturated fat. However, when it comes to monounsaturated, it may have more polyunsaturated, but when it compares to monounsaturated with olive oil, it lags behind. But each one of them has their benefits. A lot of your seed oils or nut oils are really good for dressings and things like that. We know peanut oil is really good in a lot of restaurants and things like that. And then we move on down to more saturated fat items, such as butter, lard. Nearly 9 out of 10 people are worried about consuming fat. The fat craze has still lurked around the corner. It kind of rose to prominence some decades ago, and it still kind of haunts people. But why are we worried? Why are we worried? When healthy fats can be our friend. So let's go ahead and clear the air with some of these urban myths. Don't cook with olive oil. Most olive oil is fake. Canola oil is deadly. Now, what I will say, I will give you a quick little story. I was teaching this class out in High Point about a year ago. And one of my participants, she said, I've read something on the internet. It was a blog from some fellow where he had essentially ascribed to a study that they made a point that the olive oils that we get in the stores, some of these name brands are fake, as in they contain other oils in them. And I said, well, I'll raise you one. Let me send the article me, I'll read it. I will actually go and look at the study that he's referring to. And we looked at the study, and ladies and gentlemen, it did not contain anything about the olive oil being fake or adulterated in some type of form. What it did contain is the degradation or the breaking down of the oil. All right. Over time, oil begins to break down. What I mean by that is potency. It starts to lose certain things and reduce its properties begin to be reduced. And what we call, if y'all ever open some old oil, we call it rancid. So we know that as it sits on the shelf, it's going to degrade. So it was just seeing more of a quality issue with the oils, the various oils that we can buy in the store. But this blogger, ascribed to it that there were other things in the oil and that it was fake. But the article never said that. I think you can go look it up. I think it was by UC Davis, University of California, Davis. And I was able to actually send her the real article or real abstract and also publication that got pulled from, and actually point that out to her. So we're not worried about necessarily it being fake. Who's ever doing that and putting it on the market, that means they will be dishonest. But for the record, that particular study was talking about the quality. So is there a danger with heating olive oil? Let's see, we got some chats. some olive oil at Big Lots. There was actually vegetable and olive oil mix also at Ollie's. Yes, you will see some that have been mixed, and usually if they should have that on the label and indicate that to you, because I have seen that with other places and at other places rather, and they have actually put that on the label. It will be false advertisement if someone tried to sell something and it was not on the label. They have to say in some form or fashion, hey, this is I don't know what you would call it, a synthetic, or this is a blend, is what they call an oil blend. Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can almost miss that on the label. You can, if you're not looking good, and that's why I tell people in this particular curriculum, I love the way it points out it is important. Just like other curriculums through both of our land-grant universities, NC State and NCA&T, all point out you need to become a label reader. Because if you don't, they will get one in on you. Always read the NFP, Nutrition Fact Panel. That is imperative. And like I tell folks, once you've become like you studied it a little bit, it doesn't take that long when you go to the store. You look at it, you scan, you hit all the key points, and you're good to go. One of the internet hoaxes is there danger with eating olive oil. Now, if you crank that joker up to the most high, then you're gonna get popping like any other oil. You're gonna get smoking and things like that. It does have a lower smoke point than some of the other oils like canola oil, peanut oil, vegetable oil, things like that. However, we should not be too wary, because what I love to do when I'm sauteing, whether that's kind of making a little slurry with my spices, or simply sauteing vegetables, or some type of meat or seafood, or chicken or seafood rather, then I like to go ahead and put that thing on low, put my olive oil in there, allow it to heat up, throw my aromatics in, like my onions and garlic and things like that, get my spices in there, herbs and spices, and then throw my item in there. And a lot of times I can leave it on medium and it's fine. So through trial and error and through research, this has been debunked. Now, if you take an extra virgin and you try to throw it in the pan on super high, of course you're gonna get smoking, because it does have a relatively lower smoke point than a lot of your other cooking, what we quote unquote call cooking oils, vegetable oil, peanut oil, canola oil, things like that. Let's keep going to that. Okay. So science or not is something that we've used to debunk certain theories, or you can simply go to the university of research and go to the libraries, especially since now we have all this time on our hands. And I just addressed this as most olive oil fake. Please read the label. You can even read down, we're gonna get into it, you can even read down to where that oil came from and what's the date on it, things like that. And if you are so concerned, like I always tell people, when they call to the office and they say, man, I got a problem with this piece of equipment, this cooking equipment, or this, I said, first of all, did you keep your directions? Did you keep your bottle? Did you keep your container? All right. Once we walk through the necessary troubleshooting steps, and it's something that kind of exceeds me and it's a manufacturer thing, I'll say, have you contacted the manufacturer, because they know their product the best. All right. What does Snoops.com say? Is canola oil deadly? Ordinary use of canola oil is dangerous to consumers, is some of the claims. It is false. They cannot put anything on the market that is not deemed otherwise safe for human consumption. The FDA, I can't even say it, y'all. The FDA is going to regulate that. Um, let's keep going. So I see that we have various recipes from the Meds. Chicken breast is not the one of the recipes that's maybe in a recipe, but that's just simple sauteed method there on the right. Now the olive oil toast, not even really a recipe, but I like it. I remember getting introduced to that about 2.5 years ago, and I've been rocking with it ever since. Especially when you get a great extra virgin. Don't let somebody find out that that you like to cook, and they might surprise you with a bottle of extra virgin olive oil from one of the oil shops. Salad with a nice smooth vinaigrette. I believe that has a nice creamy balsamic vinaigrette. And that particular salad, that's our strawberry quinoa salad. Strawberry season is creeping up on us. It has crept in. So go and visit some of our local farmers and buy some of those strawberries. Roasted vegetables, always good drizzle on those. Get your nice herb and spice mix and you're good to go. Douse a little bit of olive oil in the pan and go ahead and get that stir fry and sauteing motion going. So tips to swap your fat. Instead of using those mayo-based or those really creamy dressings and drizzles and things like that, go ahead and try something with an oil. I mean, you could use not just olive oil, you can use safflower oil, you can use a lot of the nut oils, avocado oil. I mean, you can use it, the sky's the limit with things like that. Now, some of them have certain tastes that you might like over others. And then simply keeping it in a jar, shaking it up, is good. It's good to go. And you can prepare what you need. And you can save that little $3 to $5 that you would spend on a nice dressing at the store, right? So you can saute, roast, sear, bake, spicy roasted cauliflower, super tomato soup, Have not tasted this particular tomato soup, but I have tasted, tomato soup is one of my go-tos. Now you can say, oh man, that sure would go nice with a grilled cheese and things like that. But you could also just simply try a piece of whole wheat toast, or you may just simply reduce that grilled cheese and add some what we call vegetables. All right. Dress salads with olive oil based dressings and drizzle. You saw this last week with the white bean hummus. So you can say goodbye to buying those label-ridden, store-bought, money-grabbing dressings and marinades. So simply jar, acid, oil, seasoning, good to go. Shake it on up. And your kids will love to get involved in this too, because you can just take a mason jar or just a simple jar with a lid, put it up there and allow them to shake it up. Let them do the hard work. And then you got a nice dressing, and they've gotten a chance to do something too. So, and sauteed squash and onion, instead of throwing that old bacon or that old fat back in there, we replaced it with olive oil. Sauteed squash and onions is a southern staple. We always used to do it. Now, then we didn't use a lot of the animal fat back home. My mom, she was a little bit more conscious than most. Not as conscious as Vincent Webb wanted her to be, but than most. So she used simple, just broth or water or something like that to kind of steam them. Replace butter with olive oil with the toast, and then the Mediterranean tuna salad. Now that Mediterranean tuna salad, because I prepared it, excuse me, because I tasted it, I will say that it is an acquired taste. Now I like it. However, if you are used to that creamy, rich tuna salad, this one will have to grow on you. Nevertheless, it's good because you can taste all of the items and it's not masked by the cream. Just simple olive oil, and you can do the cucumber slices, or you can do a whole wheat cracker, whichever you prefer. I like the cucumber slices. It's refreshing to the tongue, nice and cool, especially if it's been in the refrigerator. Dark bottle or can is what you want to use. I'm about to go live for a minute. So simple. I ain't gonna call no names, so I'm gonna turn it around. But it's a product of Italy. We don't get into all that as well. Product versus made in and all that stuff. But this is a nice big bottle right here. And I usually, even though it's dark, I usually keep it down on the left of the stove and just keep it on that other side of the wall to prevent heat penetration. Do you have for use of, let's see here, do you have for use of clarified butter? I will get to that. Let me go back to my screen share. Go. Y'all can't see what I'm seeing, so I always get hit by this. There we go. All right. Going back to presentation mode. All right, so let me make sure I see this right. Okay, what tips do you have for use of ghee clarified butter? Now, what I want to remind people, now I've only heard of ghee clarified butter a couple times, but what I want to remind people is that anytime you have a butter, it's going to be thickened, meaning that it's probably going to contain more saturated fat than a lot of your things that are liquid at room temperature, just from what I have observed. Now, I'm not as familiar with ghee clarified butter, but I would assume because it's a butter, it is probably solid at room temperature. Please type in the chat box if I'm off base. So what I do want people to realize is that butter is still in the name. And then with a lot of butters, in general, you have to question, okay, well, what's in it? Because you have salt, you have non-salt, you have herb, you have spices in certain things. Hopefully, there will be herbs and spices rather than just salt or simply unsalted. But that there, just by the simple nature that it is a butter, I would say that it is probably going to be more solid at room temperature. Now, please type in the chat box if I'm tracking. If I'm not, please clarify. Oh, clicking on so many things. Extra virgin. Okay. Olive oil is something I like to keep on hand, as well as extra virgin if I have that luxury. I will say that extra virgin is really, really potent. It really hits hard on those sauces and those dressings and drizzles, while your olive oil is really good for the sauteing method and stir frying method because it can withstand a little bit more heat. Let's see, do I want to say anything else on that? Oh, how to buy olive oil. Of course, we talked about the can or the nice tinted, I like to call it tinted glass jar, dark bottle. Best by date. Remember, best by is a quality date, not oh, let me hurry up and throw it out because it's going bad date. Now, they could be synonymous just depending on the environment. However, it is just at the best quality. This is the date that we put on. After this date, it starts to degrade a little bit more. Let me see, chat box. Does it have to be extra virgin? No, it does not have to be. I mean, you can use olive oil to make your dressings and you can just streamline it just like that. But what I have observed is that that extra virgin is smooth when it comes to those dressings and simply putting it over toast. Now, what I will say is that they have gotten really good at making those regular olive oils pretty smooth. Gone are the day, just for laughs and giggles. My mom used to pull out that bottle of olive oil, and she used to call it her anointing oil, that little $2, $3 bottle of olive oil. Gone are those days. They've really stepped their game up and really having good quality oils right out of the gate. So look out for that Best By date. Now, there apparently has been some okey dokes going on with other food items. My folks, they purchased some from a grocery store. It's not some oil, but some yogurt and stuff like that. And it was past the Best By date and whatnot. So do be careful at this time. The stores start to deplete certain things, will start to really get rid of certain things. Buy olive oil in appropriate size containers so that you use it within 30 to 60 days. Find an olive oil bottle that fits your needs and cooking style. Keep it near your prep area. I have a little one that I sometimes use, but most of the time I have the bottle right down in my little lower cupboard. So I'm able to just drizzle. If I have a small bottle, I'll have it up in the upper left cupboard beside my microwave. And it does have that dividing wall in there. So that is good. Store away from light and heat, especially if you have the clear bottle. There's nothing wrong necessarily with having a clear bottle. It just knows that light can penetrate it. Heat is easy. It's a little bit easier for heat to get through it. But if you put it in a dark space, it can hang with the best of them. But what light and heat does, it degrades and breaks down the oil. Now, olive oil does not have to be this expensive. This is from a place, if you have never been, called Southern Season. It does have those nice, expensive ones if you ever really want to get there. You find yourself in Chapel Hill, which is an expensive area. Anyway, you feel free, but Benson is going to be rolling over to Aldi and getting the basic extra virgin olive oil or some space, not to put a tag on certain places, but a space who has a good deal for a good quality. Is what I'm talking about. These are places that you're probably already familiar with. Not gonna toot any horns there. Olive oil does not have to break your budget. It does not have to do that, y'all. So, what is the major difference of product of Spain versus made in Spain? So usually, or product 100% Italian, product 100% España or Spanish, Espanol. Things like that are indicating how essentially I don't even know I want to call it grape, but the olive, what kind of process it went through. Where is it from? Was it actually made in Spain? So we're going to be looking at Spain because that's mostly what you see up here. Okay, what is the difference between product of Spain and made in Spain, or product 100% Italian? So if it's 100%, that means that particular product has been produced in Italy or Spain or whatever the country is. And also, if it says 100%, you can gather that it stayed within its country or it stayed within its boundaries. Now, where in the country it came from, that's to be debatable. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty, you might have to contact the company, or it might have it simply on the bottle under the NFP, the Nutrition Facts Panel. Made in Spain, that does not necessarily mean, and let me continue to go. Oh, let me stay on this page. Thought I had another slide there. That does not necessarily mean that that all of the olives or the oil rather came from, or the olives came from Spain. They may have come from different countries, but the oil nevertheless went through the process in Spain when it was produced there. So if it's 100% product from such and such and such, you can gather that the olives, everything was gathered from point A to point B to point C to your to delivery. If it says that it was made, then you can gather that is the oil might have been the oil process might have been done there, but the olives may have come from different places. Snacking on nuts and seeds. One of my favorite things to do. You can put them in little baggies. You can put them in your little snack jar and things like that. By the way, Raven, I am still trying to fill my little Snackadent jar that I got as my Christmas exchange.
Hey, I'm glad you're using it.
Yes. I will continue to use it. I like it. That way I can point my roommates and say, oh, not the Snickers bar today, but rather the nuts and seeds today.
Good choices.
Maybe wild. Which nuts and seeds should you choose? Well, the sky's the limit, y'all. The only nut significantly high in omega-3s, they'll argue, oh, it's the walnut, it's the pecan, things like that. Yes, the walnut is not only high in omega-3s, it is one of my personal favorites. I love walnuts. I know you probably can't see it. I'm gonna stop sharing, but not to claim a brand, but I do love my walnuts. I like to put them in cereal. If I get a cereal, I do like to put them in yogurt. And things like that. Put them on salads, all that stuff. And then peanut butter. As you can see, this one kind of has like the little oil floating around. It's the crunchy kind. I haven't gotten to this jar yet. That's why it's the jar that you see. I'm getting ready to get started on jar 2, hopefully in a few days. But let's go back to screen share mode. Let's see. We can keep trekking on the trail. And then you have almonds, quick, easy to grab, whatever you choose to start with. If you say, well, Benson, I can't just jump into almonds and things like that. Well, maybe you do start with a peanut. Maybe you do start with a cashew. Maybe you, I don't know, maybe you start exotic. I don't know, with like a Brazil nut or something like that. So aim for 3 ounces of nuts and seeds per week. You also have things like sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and things like that. If you're looking for a way to measure, baby food jar, quarter cup, sticky note, handful. The hand is always there, as long as you have all of your hands. A smartphone, standard size. The way they make smartphones now, don't get too happy. Standard size, probably iPhone 4 size, iPhone 5. If you're an iPhone user, you wouldn't be using that big Galaxy Note to measure that out. Shot glass, nevertheless, they are a good measurement for that. You can add to salads and grains. Top fruit with nuts and seeds. Snack on nuts and seeds by themselves. I'm going. Y'all, the joy of doing Zooms via your house.
Right.
And that is not my puppy. That is the dog upstairs. Oatmeal with fruits and nuts, whole wheat couscous salad, almond mushroom. This one alone, almond mushroom burger, is the one that every time we made it at this time, when we got ready to do this lesson, Every time we made it, y'all, they wanted it to be in their finale, in their last lesson. And the last lesson is about reducing sugar. But they wanted that. Strong again. So you get a chance to check out that almond mushroom burger. I'm a big little horn tutor of mushrooms, especially those portobellos. And they have a lot of different mushrooms out there on the market that are edible in the stores. But those just seem to be really hearty. A cucumber salad with peanuts. Sometimes it's just simple as 1, 2, 3. Literally, 1 being fruit, 2 being your nut, 3 being your spice.
Vince, what is cucumber?
So cucumber is, I think it's relatable to the Near East over in that region. It's a lot of Indian dishes in here, but this one contains fruit. I think it actually contains a lot of your sweet fruit, like your mango and pineapple and things like that. And it actually has, I think, what they call Spanish peanuts. Just the little casing, the brown casing, and it's pretty good. And then it has a ribbon of herb on it. If I was gonna make this today, I'd probably throw some mint in there just to set it off. But yeah, it's a pretty good salad. Now it does reduce, and it does, because it has all, you see those fruits are pretty juicy. It does create a good juice when you let it sit in the fridge too. So
Okay.
Yep. Swap protein bars for nuts and seeds. Swap cereal bars for nuts and seeds. Some of those cereal bars, those little quick bars and stuff like that, sometimes that might be, the worst for you. You have to read that label. Shelf-stable, portable, whole food. Now, nut butters can be a good thing if you can't get the real thing, but let's read the label. Now, I love this one that I get. I ain't gonna call no names, but on the back of this label, let's go live really quick. So on the back of this label, I don't think that you can see it, but I'm trying to get it up to you. Contains just peanuts. Just peanuts is what I like to see. I know that on my mom's side, that high blood pressure is pretty prevalent. So I try to look for something that has pretty much no sodium or very, very reduced sodium. This has no, as you can see, no salt added, no sodium at all. And that right there only cost me about $3 or $4. Now that's a little high when you compare the chips and all that. But I'm personally willing to pay a little bit, like $1 more for something that I know that it's gonna be in my body a lot. And then just knowing portion control. You can make anything stretch when you're talking about portion control. All right. Now, sugar palm, all that stuff, those are things we have to look out for. Molasses, that's just shouting added sugar. All right. And then look at the sodium levels. Mindful eating in the med way, right? I just, be right into it. Portions, y'all. Portions. As the portions go up, the weights go up. All right. A lot of folks, they get bit by the buffet line, big portions. A lot of folks, when they go out to eat, we get clubbed. We get clubbed upside the head. I know that's probably a club sandwich right there, but we literally get clubbed, y'all. Our eyes get bigger than our stomachs, and we literally say, man, I'm hungry. I'm gonna get the fattiest, juiciest thing on the menu. Or maybe you say, oh, well, I'm gonna settle for the pasta. I'm gonna settle for this. Make another choice besides that big hulking burger and fries. A lot of times these restaurants are serving things in portions that is really meant for 2 and 3 people, or meant for 2 and 3 meals. Stuff like that, and before you know it, you done ate 1,500 calories because you just couldn't, we just couldn't stop, help ourselves. So what is a normal portion? Say, palm of your hands, handful of nuts and seeds. It's about 1 ounce, give or take. Palm of your hand, 3 ounces of cooked meat is about the size of the palm of your hand, or a deck of playing cards. Some people can laugh at that, especially the big fellows out there. Now, what I always tell folks is prepare your plate accordingly. And if you are not satisfied, and I say if you was full or not, if you are not satisfied, if your hunger has not been satisfied, then you are allotted to go back and get a little bit more. Now, don't try to make the first, the second portion look like the first portion. Stuff like that. So what is a normal portion? Keep going. If you do, stumble upon that burger, maybe it's a turkey burger, it's a leaner meat, 3 ounces, call me in. Chicken breast. On the right side of that plate is what people normally would try to aim for. On the left side of that plate is what we need to be aiming for. And one thing my pops always used to say when we used to go eat buffet, first of all, they'd be like, hey, make sure you get your vegetables and things like that. That come first. However, he would always say, pace yourself. Take your time. Make sure you settle, you sit down and let it digest. You don't have, he said, the food ain't, it ain't really going nowhere. Even in the same extent, when you're at home, if you have it at home, where is it going besides you having the time to cook it? Now, the time can go somewhere. But as we've learned before in the previous sessions, we can make up for time if we do just a couple things on the front end. 1 ounce of cheese is about the size of your thumb or 2 dice. Or 2 dice, rather. What is a normal portion? Your fist is about the size of 1 cup. So an adult fist, raise it up, and you got about 1 cup. For a child, a small child especially, it might be half that and stuff like that, and then you creep it down further than that. But, excuse me. You see that broccoli is poking out of that cup. So what is a normal portion? A bowl of cereal may be a lot more than 1 serving. So the technique that you can use is use smaller plates, bowls, cups, things like that to limit your portions. And that way you can kind of pace yourself. Now, it's a joke, but it's really a reality. But Vincent used to get a bowl that was bigger than even the one on the right. And when I was a kid, I used to pour 2, 3 different kinds of cereals in the bowl, probably about 3 cups each, drown it with milk and go to town. But I learned that I could not do that anymore. So what is a normal portion of pasta? A bowl of pasta may be a lot more than 1 cup if you fill up the whole bowl. 3 cups versus 1 cup, that's a lot now. When you eat at home, remember, you are in control. Just like Smokey the Bear said, only you can prevent forest fires, only you can control how much you eat, especially when you're at the house. It makes it a little easier. When you eat at home, remember, you are in control. Serve reasonable portions on individual plates instead of putting the serving dishes on the table. Colorful plate. Portion out snacks. Maybe as soon as you buy them, you put them in little baggies. If you're not that disciplined already to kind of just grab and then or pour and then go, I'll put a reasonable amount of food into a bowl or container and leave the rest of the package in the pantry. Use the small little sandwich bags. Sometimes you can buy them already portioned out. Might cost a little bit more though. Use smaller plates and glasses. I went over that. How many calories do I need? From the last dietary guidelines that was put out, they should be releasing another or working on releasing another in 2021. Every 5 years, they'll go ahead and release one. But for now, this is what we have. So females is at the top, Males is the bottom three lines, and it tells you according to your activity level, how roughly how many calories you should be taking in a day. And this is just for the average, apparently healthy male or female. Now I know for me that my body, I'm a smaller fella, so my calorie intake doesn't need to be as high as, say, for instance, my roommates who are of one of them very much so of the average height and build. So of course you can go and get these wonderful recipes: olive oil toast, tuna salad, and cucumber olive oil sea salt yogurt. That's a bit of an acquired taste too, but I do like it. Try those salad dressings. The brown rice salad is good. Spicy roasted cauliflower, always a good one. Cabbage pasta and pepper, one of my go-tos for the class. And just a sprinkle of cheese, not a dousing, not throwing it all over the place. So if we continue, oatmeal with fruit and nuts, I love this one. I love that one. One of my go-tos in the morning. Rosemary, chili almonds. Rosemary, chili walnuts. We have done those in the class, and they are scrumptious when you can toast those walnuts, roast them in the oven. And the cucumber, quinoa strawberry salad, we've already, whole wheat couscous salad, that's always a good one. Stir fry with nuts. And the famous mushroom almond burger. And there we have it, folks. That is the third session of Med Instead of Meds, just how to swap your fats. And some of the practical things that I always tell folks is that this is not a sprint. This is one step at a time. All right. So, hey, well, Vincent, man, I really, my go-to is usually vegetable oil, and then I do butter. Maybe you knock it down a notch and say, okay, well, I'm strictly going to use vegetable oil for things that I know I have to make that one-to-one swap. And then I say, okay, olive oil, or canola oil, I'm simply going to use that as my cooking. Maybe you have to walk it out like that and take those baby steps. Because, that's how my folks had to do it and stuff like that. Now they're just getting to the point where they're probably like, oh, considering they tilt their head, maybe I might have to use maybe I can use olive oil for that. Well, what did Vincent say? And that's when my mom will start saying the, hey, what was that recipe that you had and stuff like that? And I'll say, well, it was so and so and so. And then she'll say, oh, okay, so I can do that with that. And that's where we get to recipe swapping. It's cool. Nuts and seeds. A lot of us, especially in the African American community, we always eating things like peanuts and nuts and seeds. I know in my house, growing up, we always used to have nuts around. You had a little nutcracker. We would get the raw ones that weren't cracked for you. You get a little nutcracker and stuff. And that, as a kid, I always made it fun because I got a chance to hear the crunch and stuff like that. But those are some practical ways, and just going to the store and looking for your price point. Looking at it, because like I tell folks, if you catch it right, eating healthy does not have to be that expensive. Now, if you get to the point where you start consuming like a lot of animal products, it can. However, a lot of times we don't need all that animal product anyway, especially when we're talking about those meats, heavy meats. So try a couple days without meat and see where it takes you. But yeah, that's pretty much the introduction to fats and oils and things like that.